Adventurers who first landed on the palm-lined shores of islands scattered throughout the South Seas sailed home with tales of paradise, stories of lush, warm islands, rich with food on the shore and in the sea, stories of gentle, ever-loving maidens, of verdant valleys, coral white beaches, and emerald lagoons too beautiful to describe. Travelers today fly home with those same stories. Welcome to Paradise. I'm Tricia Springer, and I'll be your guide to some of my favorite South Sea hideaways. I'll show you what each one has to offer, as well as everything you'll need to know to have the South Seas adventure that's right for you. I'll give you lots of useful information that'll make your trip easier and a lot more fun. Things like how to get here, how to get around, what kind of weather to expect, how to dress, and a lot more. But we've got a lot to see on this video trip, so let's get started. Our first stop in the South Seas is in beautiful French Polynesia. The French territorial government administrates the 5 island groups making up French Polynesia: the Society Isles, the Marquesas, the Tuamotus, the Australs, and the Gambiers. These islands cover an area larger than Western Europe, yet the total landmass is less than 4,000 square miles. The capital of French Polynesia is in the town of Papeete, on one of the Society Isles, the fabled island of Tahiti. Tahiti is as far south of the equator as Hawaii is north. It's halfway between North America and Australia, and halfway between Chile and Japan, making it the perfect Pacific crossroads of trade and travel. Of all the islands in the South Pacific, it's Tahiti that has become the symbol of the South Pacific dream. The exploits of famous sea captains like Louis de Bougainville, James Cook, and William Bligh have positioned Tahiti as the most glamorous and best-known island on Earth. Gauguin's paintings of languid, brown-skinned vahinis captured the softness of the land and its people. And the flowery phrases of Robert Louis Stevenson, Somerset Maugham, and James Michener have contributed to the dream. Papeete is a lively town today with a population of 80,000, but until the 1960s it was a backwater village full of sailors and whalers, copra traders and scoundrels. Then 2 things happened that changed Tahiti forever. First, the Fa'a'a International Airport was opened, making the islands much more accessible. And second, MGM flew Marlon Brando here to star in a remake of the film Mutiny on the Bounty. Suddenly, Tahiti enjoyed a surge of tourism that has never let up. Today, you can sit at an open-air restaurant and watch Papeete come to you. Traffic on the waterfront street whizzes by, pop-popping Vespas, Renault cars from France, bicycles and skateboards. You see ladies dressed in the latest Paris fashions and island maidens loosely wrapped in bright pareos. You see cruise ships tied up in the harbor and sailing vessels from hailing ports all around the world. It's a great walking town. The narrow streets and broad avenues are lined with sidewalk vendors selling shell necklaces, straw hats, sandwiches, sweet fried breads, pastries, and candy. There are pricey jewelry stores selling expensive black pearls and duty-free shops selling the finest of china and crystal, spirits, and other goods. The most interesting marketplace is the Marché Papeete, an entire city block of family-run stalls selling fish, produce, and handicrafts. The best time to visit the marketplace is early Sunday mornings, when people from the outer districts come, rain or shine, to buy and sell and to attend church. On the perimeter of the market, you see the busy bus terminals where the famous trucks begin and end their trips to the outlying districts. They provide noisy, colorful, and cheap transportation around the island, and everyone rides them, even the tourists. Tahiti is shaped like a figure eight. The large part of the eight is Tahiti Nui. It's connected to the smaller part, Tahiti Iti, by the Isthmus of Taravao. There's a 72-mile road around Tahiti Nui, and it's a popular one-day drive for visitors. Let's see what there is along the way. About 5 miles east of Papeete, stop at the Tahara'a Hotel for the view of the Matavai Bay and the island of Moorea, only 11 miles across the open sea. Matavai Bay is where Captain Samuel Wallace poured cannonballs on Tahitians who wanted his ship's nails for fish hooks. Captain Cook dropped anchor in Matavai Bay as well. He named this site One Tree Hill for the solitary atai tree that grew here at the time. There's a fine black sand beach at the foot of One Tree Hill, and the scenery from the Tahara'a is spectacular. And keep in mind, you're looking at Bly water. The mutinous crew of the Bounty also anchored here. This is breadfruit. It grows wild here in French Polynesia, and it's a staple of the diet. The people prepare it in many, many different ways. In fact, the breadfruit played an important part in one of the most famous sea mutinies ever to occur. In 1788, Captain Bly sailed the Bounty here into Matavai Bay, and they came here to get seedlings of breadfruit, which they were going to take to Jamaica to plant there. Well, they got their seedlings, and they set out to sea. Somewhere out there, the mutiny occurred because the men would no longer put up with Captain Bly, so they put him on a rowboat, and they brought the Bounty back here to Tahiti. Well, to this day, many of the families here on the island are descendants of the original Bounty crew members, and they still eat a lot of breadfruit. From the lookout at the hotel, you can see Venus Point, where Captain Cook came to record the transit of Venus across the sun. And as you continue around the island, you'll see cascading waterfalls inviting you to a cooling swim. Just beyond the isthmus, you can wander through the botanical gardens, lush with huge ferns, giant bamboo, blazing canna plants, and more than 200 species of flowers. Adjacent to the Botanical Gardens is the Gauguin Museum, where several original paintings and a number of reproductions of his works are displayed. There's also a stone tiki from the Austral Islands, a fertility symbol. Some tourists have been known to chip away the stone to take a piece home, but it's taboo, forbidden, like stealing from a cathedral. What's worse, you might pick up a curse. Stone tikis are bad luck. They're supposed to walk at night unless they're embedded in concrete or chained. Driving around the south coast, you come across Tahiti's only golf course. It's the only place where the coastal plain is wide enough for 18 holes. Just past the golf course, you'll find a small seashell museum that's worth a stop. Inside, you'll find displays of hundreds of shells from the South Pacific waters. You'll also see a number of aquariums with live coral and beautiful tropical fish. The Museum of Tahiti and the Islands will give you a look at the way the islands were before the missionaries covered up the lithe vahinis. There's a Tiki-studded garden and exhibits of ancient costumes, weather-worn outrigger canoes, javelins, and weapons. An anchor from Captain Cook's ship Adventure is displayed here. It was recovered after 200 years under the waves. By the time you get back to Papeete, it'll be time to start thinking of dinner. You can find some great restaurants here. Remember, Tahiti is a blend of 3 cultures, island, French, and Asian, and you can find the best of all 3 in Papeete restaurants. The grand event in Tahiti is the Bastille Day celebrations, called Tiuri in French Polynesia. It lasts for a month and is a wild holiday with games, dances, and a never-ending party of food and drink. It begins the week of July 14th and continues on through the middle of August. It's an exciting spectacle, and visitors and locals stay up all night and sleep in mornings. There are dance competitions that go on for hours, and there's canoe racing that's world-class. They paddle 43 miles around Moorea and back. Despite Tahiti's fame as a South Sea paradise, many visitors are surprised to find that the outer islands may fit more closely with what they expected to find. Beautiful beaches, crystal-clear lagoons teeming with tropical fish, no freeways, and no rush hour. The most popular islands for tourists are Moorea, Huahine, Taha'a, Raiatea, and Bora Bora. It's hard to get any agreement on which of the islands is the most beautiful. Seen in the misty distance, they seem like movie sets. As a matter of fact, many of them are movie sets, like Moorea, which was Bali Hi in the film South Pacific. Moorea, whose name means yellow lizard, is the second most popular of the Society Isles because it's an easy run from Tahiti, only 11 miles by fast ferry or Air Tahiti shuttle flights. There are frequent 7-minute flights from Tahiti's Fa'a'a airport. But the ferries offer the most spectacular approach to Moorea. Jagged mountains that ring the mirror-like bays often are shrouded by mist and clouds. Azure lagoons are bordered with white sand beaches, and beautiful flowers blossom among the coconut palms. Moa Roa, the needle-shaped mountain, is pointed out today as Bali Hi. Moa Puta, the mountain with a hole in it, is said to have been pierced by the spear of Pa'i, a favorite son of the gods. Cook's Bay and the village of Pa'o is where the ferry and cruise ships stop. The village has a handful of stores, offices, and cafes. There's also an excellent aquarium here, and all the fish have been collected from the reefs and lagoons surrounding Moorea. A stop here will introduce you to the actual types of fish you'll meet when you go snorkeling anywhere around the island. A tour around the island is one of the highlights of a visit to Moorea. It takes about 4 hours and includes visits to small villages and spectacular views of mountains, valleys, lagoons, and bays. On the west side of the island, you'll find the Tiki Village, an entertainment center where a typical Tahitian village has been recreated. Moorea is one of the centers of the Tahitian black pearl industry, and there are several excellent shops on the island. One of the best is Maohi Pearls, just past the Tiki Village. One of the nicest gifts you can bring someone home from the South Seas is the Tahitian black pearl. And I'm standing with Ronald Sage, and he's one of the world's foremost experts on these pearls. Now, Ronald, first off, why are these pearls black as opposed to the white pearls we're used to seeing?
Well, this pearl is black because it comes from this mother of pearl here that you can see. This one is the black clip mother of pearls, and this one is the white one. People are used to see the white pearl, and the white pearls usually come from this mother of pearl.
Okay, Ronald, why do black pearls cost more than white pearls?
Well, the black pearls takes 5 years before we get to the final item.
Okay.
And also when we harvest it, we only have 20% of success. You know, we can find only 20% of pearls that we can sell, and in that quantity, we only have 5% of pearl of really top quality.
Now, some people tint white pearls and try to sell them as black pearls. How can you tell if you're buying the real thing?
Well, it's easy. For anybody, it's to look at the pearls. If it is drilled, it's any natural black pearl are not drilled. All the dyed pearl must be drilled because they have to drill to put the tint inside. If you have a black pearl without any hole in it, it's a Tahitian black pearl.
Once you see how beautiful they are, it will be hard to leave the islands without at least one black pearl to take home with you. Visitors to the shop can also see a free demonstration of how coconuts are gathered and opened. There are other demonstrations as well, including palm frond weaving. It's worth a stop even if you don't buy anything. The most spectacular scenery is on a tour of the interior of Moorea. The view from Le Belvedere Lookout is the most glamorous panorama in French Polynesia. From here, you can see both Opunohu Bay and Cook's Bay, as well as the rugged mountains that ring the lookout. The crystal-clear lagoons of Moorea are a paradise for water lovers, and there's no way you can stay out of the water. You can swim, snorkel, scuba dive, or water ski. Glide across a lagoon on a sailboard or on a boat of any size. Take an outrigger ride and meet playful dolphins that may join you on your tour. Of course, you don't have to do any of this. In paradise, it's okay to just lie on the beach for as long as you want, or sip a rum punch while the trade winds gently keep you cool. No one's going to mind. Attend a tamara'a, a Tahitian feast. Polynesian foods are cooked in an underground oven, and the food is accompanied by colorful dances. Before it's over, you'll find that you're an expert dancer too. Or learn how to wear a pareu, the traditional Polynesian dress.
See, the pareu is just one sample piece of cloth. It's 1.75 m by 1.10 m. That's the regular size, and you can do maybe 20, 30 different dresses out of it. So I'm going to show you one first on myself. You start with the long end of the pareu. This is called the pareu. Then you're going to cross it in front, cross it again, and then just twist the corners and tie them behind your neck. Once you've done that, you just cross it, and you can use your bikini to hold it closed so it doesn't open up with the wind. See? Now I can show you some other ways for you. Now here I'm going to start by tying the pareu before wearing it. So you're going to take the long end of the pareu and you're going to tie the corners toward the middle. So you take one corner, and about 60 centimeters away, you're going to tie a knot. The same thing on the other end. Same distance. And here you're going to wear just like a shirt.
Oh.
Okay. Up here. Turn around. Now here in front, we can just cross it and hold it right here. Then we need the belt. Where is the belt? So this scarf, to use it as a belt, we just roll it up and we just wear it at the waist. Just tie a knot over here. And voila, isn't that pretty?
Great.
Turn around. Very nice.
Very comfortable.
Beautiful. Maybe Teura wants to show us another way to do it. Here, this is a pretty color for Teura. This time we're going to start. See, we start with the short end of the pareo. We're going to tie on one shoulder. Then we're going to fold it at the waist here. And we're going to tie it on the hip. Voila, very nice.
The island of Huahine has become more popular for tourists as more hotel space has become available in recent years. It's only a 40-minute trip by air from Papeete. Huahine is actually 2 islands connected by a short causeway. The island is only 20 miles in circumference, but it has mountains over 2,000 feet high. Most of its 4,000 inhabitants fish or farm for a living. Whare is the only town on Huahine and has been likened to a town from the old American West. A few shops border the tree-lined street, and it's the center of the island's social activities. Schooners stop at Whare several times a week to drop off goods, and it's on those days that truckloads of Tahitians bring bananas, plantain, coconuts, and fish to be shipped to Papeete. Huahine is known for the many marae that have been discovered here. These marae were open-air temples, similar in nature to a family chapel. This is the largest grouping in Polynesia, and it's believed that this area was a last stronghold of the original Polynesian leaders. The Hotel Bali Hi, Huahine, is 5 minutes from Whare and is famous for more than just first-class accommodations. When you stay at the Hotel Bali Hi in Huahine, you're staying on ground that's a very special part of French Polynesia. In 1972, when hotel construction began, one of the workers discovered an ancient war club at the bottom of one of the ponds. Well, archaeologists were summoned to investigate, and this area turned out to be one of the most significant archaeological sites in the islands. An entire village was unearthed, sort of like a Polynesian Pompeii, which was inhabited 1,300 years ago. And today, some of the artifacts that they dug up are on display in the hotel. From the Hotel Bali Hi, you can watch the action on the best surfing waters in the Society Islands. You know, early missionaries banned surfing because they thought the lack of clothing was indecent. Another Huahine highlight is a sunset horseback ride along the miles of deserted beaches. The tiny Polynesian horses seem to enjoy the ride as much as you do, but to them, it's just another day in paradise. Raiatea is the second largest of the Society Islands and is best known for being the educational and religious center for the ancient Tahitians. It was through a natural break in the reef that the original Maoris set off in outrigger canoes to eventually populate New Zealand and other South Pacific islands. Possibly the most sacred marae, Tapu Tapu Atea, is on Raiatea. This pre-Christian shrine built of black volcanic rock was the site of many human sacrifices to the gods. Only the strongest and largest men could become leaders in ancient times. At the Tapu Tapu Atea marae, you can see how you would measure up. It's said that you had to be as tall as the rock to be eligible. It's also said that tall headdresses sometimes counted. The Whaaroa River is the only navigable river in the Society Islands, and you feel like you're in another world as your outrigger canoe quietly glides through dense jungle. There are spectacular panoramas on the island, but many are accessible only by four-wheel drive vehicles. Red Chevy Tours knows every back road on the island and goes to places that few tourists ever see. The primary town in Raiatea is Uturoa, the second largest town in French Polynesia, even though Raiatea has only 7,500 residents. Uturoa has interesting shops to explore and a small public market. It's also the place to charter a sailboat for cruises to other nearby islands. Ever since James Michener proclaimed Bora Bora as the most beautiful island in the world, visitors have flocked here in greater and greater numbers. Still, this tiny island has managed to avoid most of the changes brought on by the lure of the tourist dollar. Although Bora Bora is only a 45-minute flight from Papeete, getting to your hotel will take somewhat longer than that. The airport is located on one of the small islands, or motus, that fringe Bora Bora. This means that you will still have another 45-minute boat ride to the village of Vaitape, and then, depending on where you're staying, another ride of from 10 to 20 minutes on a bus. Bora Bora has one of the clearest and most colorful lagoons in the world, and this alone is why many people come here. Put on your snorkeling gear and suddenly you'll think you've been transported to someone's private aquarium. Hundreds of red, green, blue, and yellow fish swim with you among fantastic coral formations. And if you take some bread from the breakfast table, they'll eat right out of your hand. It's an experience you'll never forget. There are white sand beaches for sunning, and Matira Beach is one of the most beautiful in the world. Or you can borrow a bicycle from your hotel and take a ride around the island. It's less than 20 miles around. Don't forget your camera, as there are some great photo spots along the way. Ancient marae, scenic mountains, tiny churches, and even a plantation house built for the movie Hurricane. Stop at Bloody Mary's for a cool drink and see if you can get your name added to the other celebrities. And if you go on a Sunday, the Bora Bora natives are happy for you to attend church services with them. For the truly adventurous, one absolutely shouldn't miss event is the shark feeding. Now, this isn't a shark feeding like you might have seen at an aquarium somewhere, watching sharks through a window in a tank. No, at Bora Bora, you get in the water with the sharks. Wild sharks, just a few feet away from you as they compete for meat thrown their way by your Polynesian guide. The sharks must know a good thing when they see it because they've never nibbled on a tourist. But for most people, the shark feeding is one of the most exciting things they have ever done. And throughout the islands, big game fish such as marlin are waiting to give battle to the dedicated fishermen. At the end of the day, it's back to the beach for another brilliant South Sea sunset. Or take a sunset cruise on a catamaran. Have a great rum punch, or just lay back and listen to Tahitian music as the sun goes down. You'll forget that the rest of the world exists. Since the Fa'a'a International Airport was opened at Papeete, Tahiti has become accessible to many more people. A number of airlines have flights that make the 8-hour trip from Los Angeles, so you can go just about any day of the week. Most visitors to the Tahitian Islands ride le truck for short trips. They're inexpensive and usually available. Taxis and rental cars are also available, but are much more expensive and much less fun. Air Tahiti has frequent and reliable transportation to all the major islands. Modern aircraft leave Fa'a'a International throughout the day. Between Papeete and Moorea, there is frequent air service as well as ferry service. The Kiki 3 makes the 1-hour crossing 3 times a day. There's also a car ferry that makes 2 trips a day. Exploration Cruise Lines has inter-island cruises that stop at all the major islands. To be allowed into French Polynesia, everyone must have a valid passport and an outbound ticket. Visas will be issued at the airport in Papeete. When you leave Tahiti, be sure to save back $10 in French Polynesian money for each person in your group. You'll need it to pay the departure tax at the airport. The official language is French, although Tahitian is usually spoken by the Polynesian population. English is widely used, especially in areas frequented by tourists. Tipping is contrary to Tahitian custom, and you'll see signs posted that say no tipping. You will find, however, that some employees at hotels and restaurants, especially non-Polynesians, will graciously accept tips for good service. Most hotels use 220-volt 50 cycle with 110 volts for razors only. A small portable converter with an adapter will be useful for other appliances. Most outlets in Tahiti have 2 round holes. There are only 2 seasons in the Tahitian Islands, the warm and rainy season from November to April, and the cooler and drier season from May to October. During the warm season, expect high temperatures in the high 80s Fahrenheit. During the cooler season, it drops all the way down to the low 80s. The humidity will average between 76 and 80% year-round, so it may seem much hotter than it really is. For clothing, pack lightweight summer clothes whatever time of the year you go. Men will want a pair of slacks for dinner in nice restaurants, but leave your jacket at home. Women will want to bring 1 or 2 summer dresses. You'll find that on the outer islands, your wardrobe requires even less. Shorts for both men and women, pareus, which you can buy there, and bathing suits for most of the day. And there are many places where you won't even see bathing suits. There are mosquitoes in paradise, so bring your favorite mosquito repellent. The local favorite is Cutters, but several other brands seem to work well also. And bring plenty of money. French Polynesia is not the place to come for a low-budget vacation. Most tourists and natives drink bottled water. It's readily available at the hotels or at food stores on all the islands. If you're looking for a conventional hotel room with air conditioning, your best bet is to stay in Papeete. Once you leave the island of Tahiti, the resort hotels are mostly thatched roof bungalows or whares, where your air conditioning is the cool trade winds through the window and an overhead fan. But just because they're not air-conditioned doesn't mean they're not first class. Most are in a garden setting, have private porches or verandas, and many are built over the water so you can step right out your door into the warm waters of the lagoon. This is where you'll find accommodations more typical of traditional hotels, although some do offer a variety of whares. Overlooking Matavai Bay, the Tahara'a is a world-class hotel. Built when no building could be taller than a cocoa palm, it cascades down the side of famous One Tree Hill, allowing all 200 rooms to have a private terrace with a spectacular view. At the bottom of the cliff is a private black sand beach for hotel patrons. Until the 1960s, there was only one place for tourists to stay, a dirt floor mosquito-plagued collection of huts called the One Chicken Hotel. Colorful, but hardly first class. That's all changed now, as Moorea has a dozen hotel complexes, complete with restaurants, bars, and beaches. The Moorea Lagoon is typical of the Polynesian style, and is the only hotel in the islands owned and operated by a Polynesian family. The whares are in a beautiful garden setting at the foot of mountain peaks, partially hidden in the clouds. The lagoon waters are great for snorkeling, or you can just sit by the pool and relax. Moorea also has one of the 2 Club Meds in the islands and offers the most excitement on the island. All sorts of water sports, a large beach and restaurant with an outstanding selection of dishes from all around the world. Huahene's main hotel is the Bali Hi Huahine, part of the Bali Hi chain, and offers first-class Tahitian-style bungalows on stilts. all located in the midst of several acres of gardens crisscrossed with bridges over fish-filled ponds decorated with lily pads and water hyacinths. Like Huahine, Raiatea's main hotel is one of the Bali Hi chain. But to really get to know the island, Red Chevy Tours offers bed and breakfast lodging well away from most tourist activities. Not only will you get your room and meals, they will take you on an outrigger ride up the Whaaroa River or on a four-wheel drive exploration of the back roads of Raiatea. For those looking for first-class accommodations, the Hotel Bora Bora is the place to start. Located next to some of the best beachfront on the island, the Hotel Bora Bora has overwater fares as well as fares in a shaded garden setting. Fantastic snorkeling, outrigger canoes, sunset sails, shark feeding, everything you expect in a Polynesian vacation. The Fiji Islands had dangerous reefs and fierce cannibals, and so they were the last of the Pacific Islands to feel the European influence. The missionaries finally made it here in 1835, though, and they wrote letters home about the cannibals that fascinated generations to come. Now, not nearly as many people ended up in pots as those stories would have you believe, but one fellow claimed to have eaten 999 people. He set up stones to keep count. And then there was the unfortunate Reverend Baker. The Fijians couldn't figure out why he was so tough. Well, they forgot to take his boots off. Ate him boots and all. Today, the people of Fiji have come full circle, though, and they're known as the friendliest in the Pacific. Fiji lies south of the equator some 5,000 miles from Los Angeles and 3,200 miles from Honolulu. It's an archipelago of some 322 islands, ranging from tiny coral atolls to the two islands of Viti Levu and Vanua Levu. About 105 of the islands are inhabited. Most Fijians live on the island of Viti Levu, and this large volcanic island is the location of the only two major cities in Fiji, Nadi on the dry west side of the island, and Suva, the capital, on the wet east side. In between the two, along the Queen's Highway on the southern shore, is the Coral Coast, where most of the resort areas are located. Visitors to Fiji land at the international airport at Nadi. The part of Nadi that attracts tourists is the single main street. It's over a half-mile of shopping with seemingly every type of souvenir you could possibly want. Wood carvings, electronics, jewelry, cameras, cloth from countries throughout the Pacific area. There's also a small handicraft center with touristy type articles. One of the first and most surprising things you'll notice in Nadi is that almost all the businesses are owned and operated by Indians. Around the turn of the century, indentured workers were brought here from India to work the plantations. When their period of indenture was over, many stayed on in Fiji. And now, in only 3 or 4 generations, they actually outnumber native Fijians. Today, although Fijians own 80% of the land, Indians own 90% of the businesses. A word of caution: when you're shopping, be prepared to say no frequently. The Indian shopkeepers tend to be quite aggressive, and it sometimes takes a lot of refusing to discourage them. One other word of caution: if someone offers you a gift of a wooden sword with your name carved on it, don't take it. They'll expect a gift of money in return. This is what they look like. Many tourists use Nadi as a base for further touring for several reasons. It's close to the airport, so your hotel is only 10 minutes or so away once you clear customs. The weather is usually good, and there are a number of islands with resort facilities just offshore. These islands offer some of the best snorkeling and scuba diving in Fiji. Just outside Nadi, adjacent to the Regent of Fiji Hotel, is John Newcomb's South Pacific Tennis Ranch, where you can take lessons from the pro or meet some local players for a fast game before dinner. One more reason for staying in the area. If you don't settle in Nadi, your second option is to stay somewhere along the Coral Coast. It's not as convenient as Nadi, but each resort is isolated to the point you'll think that it's the only one in Fiji. Each one has its own stretch of white sand beach, and there's surfing, sailing, snorkeling, and scuba diving all along the southern coast. As you leave Nadi, driving east on the Queen's Highway, you'll pass field after field of sugarcane. Tiny Fijian villages, thick jungle bordering narrow rivers, miles of deserted beaches, and periodically a Muslim mosque will suddenly appear in the middle of a field. About an hour from Nandi, at the entrance to the Fijian Hotel, you can take an all-day ride on the Coral Coast Railway. The engine was built in 1911, and the cars are replicas of 19th century coaches. It leaves mid-morning for a scenic tour ending at a remote beach. After lunch and an afternoon of swimming and sunning, the train returns to the Fijian. About 2 hours from Nandi, you'll find the Pacific Harbor area, which has two of Fiji's major attractions. The first is a Robert Trent Jones designed golf course. 18 beautiful holes, and you rarely have to worry about getting a tee time. The second is the Pacific Harbor Cultural Center. The Cultural Center has a tour that takes you on a double-hulled canoe ride around a man-made lake. At various stops on the tour, you'll see demonstrations of old-time crafts such as tapa making, wood carving, and pottery, all done with traditional tools only. On the islands in the lake are traditional bures, or homes, and a Fijian temple. In olden days, when such temples were built, tradition called for 10 of the workers to be sacrificed to the gods. Labor laws have obviously been tightened since then. Also on the tour is the chief's home, which is protected by vicious wooden spikes and a fierce warrior guard. The cultural center is also a good place to see traditional dances and firewalking demonstrations. Continuing on east for about another hour, you come to the capital city of Suva. Suva is on the wet side of the island, and sometimes it gets really wet. One whopping rain in Suva left 52 inches in 2 days. That's obviously unusual, but don't be surprised if a shower or two passes while you're there. The British took over the Fijian Islands in 1874, and there is still much of the British influence noticeable in Suva. Government House sits impressively atop a hill, and the front gate is guarded by an unperturbable Fijian, reminiscent of Buckingham Palace. Next door is the very British Thurston Gardens, where you'll see beautiful plants from throughout the South Pacific. Inside the gardens, you'll also find the Fiji Museum. The museum has the finest collection of Fijian artifacts in the world, including parts of Captain Bligh's ship, the Bounty. And just down the street is the Grand Pacific Hotel, or GPH, which opened in 1914 and set the standard for hotels throughout the Pacific. Step inside and you'll feel you've been transported back to jolly old England. Downtown Suva has a wide variety of shopping available to tourists. There's a government handicraft center with some of the finest wood carvings on the island. There are also a number of duty-free shops located along narrow and extremely crowded side streets. It's an exciting experience to just stroll along the sidewalks, even if you're not on a shopping trip. You should also go to the Suva Municipal Market. This is where the locals go to buy and sell fruits, vegetables, fish, and other goods. Wander through and you're bound to see strange and exotic items you can't identify. Don't mind asking questions, however, and if something strikes your fancy, do a little good-natured haggling with the vendor. It's expected, and you may find you have a real knack for it. Once you've driven the Queens Highway, you'll have had a chance to see most of the major tourist attractions. But don't be surprised if when you get back to your hotel, there's more excitement planned for the evening. A traditional dinner entertainment you can expect is a Fijian dance troupe performing a meke. A meke embraces traditional songs and dances retelling legends, love stories, and historic events with symbolic movements. The meke dances range from a blood-curdling spear dance to a graceful fan dance, all accompanied by drums, hand clapping, and chants. Another Fijian highlight that you should be sure to see is a firewalking ceremony. Most of the larger resorts offer a ceremony at least one evening a week. Firewalking is only practiced by tribesmen from one village on the island of Banga. Believe me, when you see this spectacular ceremony in person, you'll know why so few people enter the profession. As I mentioned earlier, Fijians have a reputation as being some of the friendliest people in the South Pacific, and it's absolutely true. As you tour the islands, everyone greets you with a warm bula, the traditional greeting similar to aloha in Hawaii. If you're lucky, you might get invited to be a guest of honor at a kava ceremony. Now, kava, or yangana, as it's also called, is the national drink of Fiji. It's made from the powdered root of the pepper tree, looks like muddy water, and has very little taste. The only effect you might notice would be a slight numbing of your lips and tongue right after drinking. The kava ceremony, however, is the social glue that holds the people together. And being a guest of honor is something very special. Even if you aren't invited to be a guest of honor, you should try kava as part of your Fijian experience. It's available just about everywhere. The second largest Fijian island, Vanuatu, is just to the northeast of the Big Island. And if you want the ultimate get-away-from-it-all vacation, this may be the place for you. Despite its size and proximity to Viti-Levu, Vanuatu has very little in the way of tourist development. There's only one town to speak of, Savu-Savu, and it consists of only a few stores and businesses and a few yachts anchored in the harbor. This doesn't mean, however, that you should pass it by. Your adventure starts with a thrilling one-hour flight from Nadi to Savu-Savu, and this may be the first time in your life that you take a commercial airliner that lands on a grass runway. Waiting for you at the airport will be a camouflage-painted bus to take you to your final destination, Namali Plantation. Namali Plantation is an old copra plantation just outside Savu-Savu that has been transformed into a fantastic vacation resort. They only accept 20 people a night, and the lucky ones who get reservations sometimes have to be almost forced to leave. What you'll find when you get there are immaculate South Sea-style bungalows, 3 gourmet meals a day, swimming and tennis, snorkeling and scuba diving, and guests with whom you can spend hours each night listening to stories of their travels around the world. It's the ultimate destination for travelers looking for something special. There are many other Fijian islands offering a South Seas adventure. Not far offshore from Nadi are resorts like Mana Island, Castaway Island, Club Natasi, and Plantation Musket Cove. Or you can take a 3-day Blue Lagoon cruise to the beautiful Yasawa Islands. No matter what type of South Seas vacation you're looking for, you can probably find it somewhere in Fiji. The gateway to Fiji is the international airport at Nadi. A number of airlines have flights that make the 11-hour trip from Los Angeles or San Francisco, so you can go just about any day of the week. One very important fact, Fiji lies on the west side of the international date line, so you will lose one calendar day when you go. In other words, it takes 11 hours plus 1 day to get there. Be sure both you and your travel agent know the date you will arrive. Otherwise, none of your hotel reservations will be correct. Taxis are readily available in Nadi, Suva, and at all the major resort areas. They're metered and inexpensive for short trips. For longer trips, negotiate a price in advance. For traveling greater distances, there are a number of tour companies that operate air-conditioned buses to just about anywhere between Nadi and Suva. If you want to tour on your own, rental cars are available at all the hotels. Just be aware that there may be mileage charges in addition to the daily charge. Just a 1-day drive from Nadi to Suva and back may cost you well above $100 US. There are a number of commuter airlines operating from Nadi and Suva that serve many of the outer islands. There is also frequent air taxi service between Nadi and Suva. Many of the offshore resort islands can be reached by ship or launch departing from the Nadi area. Cruises lasting from 1 to 7 days are also available. Everyone entering Fiji must have a passport valid for at least 6 months, as well as an outbound ticket. Customs officials may also ask you to show that you have sufficient funds for your stay in Fiji. When you leave Fiji, be sure to save back $10 in Fijian money for each person in your group. You'll need it to pay the departure tax at the airport. The official language is English, and everyone speaks it to some degree. Of course, the Indians also speak Hindi, and the Fijians use their own language extensively. In Fiji, tipping is not part of the culture and is discouraged. However, if someone provides exceptional service, they will usually accept a small tip as a gift. Electricity is 240 volts, with 110 volts for razors only being available in most hotels. A small portable converter with an adapter will be useful for other appliances. Outlets in Fiji have 2 or 3 prongs set at an angle. Like French Polynesia, there are 2 seasons in the Fijian Islands: the rainy season from November to April and the dry season from May to October. Daily high temperatures will average in the mid-80s Fahrenheit year-round. The humidity will average between 65 and 83% depending on the time of year and where you are on the islands. For clothing, pack lightweight summer clothes whatever time of year you go. Men will want a pair of slacks for dinner in nice restaurants, but leave your jacket at home. Women will want to bring 1 or 2 summer dresses. Around the resort areas, shorts or bathing suits are acceptable for both men and women. But both the Fijian and Indian cultures are somewhat conservative, so you shouldn't wear scanty clothing away from the resorts. There are mosquitoes in Fiji too, so bring your favorite mosquito repellent. Cutters and several other brands seem to work as well here as in French Polynesia. The resort hotels in Nandi and along the Coral Coast are more like traditional hotels anywhere in the world. Air-conditioned, in-room telephones, room service, and good restaurants. On the outer islands, you'll find more Polynesian-style bungalows with thatched roofs and ceiling fans. Nandi has more choices for accommodations than any other single area in Fiji, and even the best are relatively inexpensive for what they offer. Just outside Nandi, the Regent of Fiji is part of the worldwide Regent chain. It's listed as one of the great resorts of the world, and just one night here will let you see why. The hotel is located on a long strand of white sand beach and is designed like a Fijian village. The hotel provides complimentary windsurfing, Hobie Cat sailboats, paddle boats, archery equipment, a par 3 golf course, and more. The John Newcomb Tennis Ranch adjoins the hotel grounds. Along the 140-mile Queens Highway between Nandi and Suva, there are a number of first-class resort hotels, including the Fijian and the Hyatt Regency. The Fijian is an hour from Nandi and is a completely self-contained resort facility. It has a private beach, its own golf course, swimming pools, tennis courts, snorkeling, and water skiing. In Savu Savu itself, there is one small hotel that caters to tourists. The premier lodging, however, is the Namali Plantation, about 15 minutes away. Private cottages, gourmet meals, and all types of water sports have made it one of the special places in the islands. I hope you've enjoyed your trip to the South Seas. As we've seen, each island is different from every other, but they all have one thing in common. They all make fantastic places for a dream-come-true vacation. Be sure and look for other Rand McNally video trips to lots of other great destinations. They'll help you make your vacation the one that's right for you. I've enjoyed being your host. I'm Tricia Springer, hoping to see you soon in a South Seas paradise.
There are many other Rand McNally programs to great vacation destinations around the world. For a free brochure, call this toll-free number or ask for Rand McNally video trips at your favorite video store or bookstore. It's the best way to make sure your vacation is exactly the way you want it to be.